Chandramauli Maharaj's daily online class. Thank you all for joining today. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, I'm assuming we'll be continuing with Canto 1.
Chapter 8.
Okay, I will share the screen. Thank you, Maharaj. Over to you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Gate Bhagavati Shastar Utpata Gaminam Taddanam Setu Adyaham Sasmi Pasyata Me Balam. Translation. After the departure of Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead and supreme ruler of everyone, these upstarts have flourished, now protected being gone. Therefore, I myself shall take up this matter and punish them. Just witness my power. Purport. The inexperienced Brahmana, puffed up by a little Brahmatajas, became influenced by the spell of Kali Yuga. Maharaj Pariksha gave license to Kali to live in 4 places mentioned here and before. But by his very expert government, the personality of Godhead could hardly find the places allotted him. The personality of Kali Yuga, therefore, was seeking the opportunity to establish authority, and by the grace of the Lord, he found a hole in the puffed up, inexperienced son of a Brahmana. The little Brahmana wanted to show his prowess in destruction, and he had the audacity to punish such a great king as Maharaj Pariksha. He wanted to take the place of Lord Krishna after his departure. These are the principal signs of upstarts who want to take the place of Sri Krishna under the influence of the age of Kali. An upstart with a little power wants to become an incarnation of the Lord. There are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Shri Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. In other words, the personality of Kali got the opportunity to reign through this son of a Brahmana, Shringi. Om Gyantimidandasya Gnana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirasesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Desatane Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pe Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yes. Power is a gift. Those who are powerful or have the influence of using power to make a difference should understand that this is a gift that is given to them by the Supreme Lord, who is the source of all power. Krishna Arjuna actually says that Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Idam Uttamam, that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. And Krishna also acknowledges as him as the supreme power within existence. When Hiranyakashipu was harassing his son Prahlad Maharaj in so many ways, and he was unsuccessful in doing any harm to his son. He became somewhat reflective and he said, "Where do you get your power from?" He was amazed to see this 5-year-old boy could defy his power, which was very influential. He had subjected, he was subjected the demigods to his control. And practically all the demigods, except Brahma and Shiva and Narada, were under the control of Hiranyakashipu. He was so powerful, but he couldn't do anything to his 5-year-old son. And so he said, "Where do you get your power from?" And Prahlad said, "I get my power from the same place you get your power from the same place everyone gets power, from the source of all power, Lord Vishnu." Of course, Hiranyakashipu wasn't so pleased to hear the answer, but what Prahlad Maharaj was saying is that power comes by the grace of the powerful. And for devotees, or anyone actually, as Krishna says, that, Savasya Jaham Reddy Sani Bestone. Well, actually, he says, in another way, he says, "I am the ability in all living entities." Yeah. Vasohom Apsakunteya Prabhasmi Sarisurya Pranava Sarvavedishu Sabdike Purusham Nishu. Sabdike Purusham Nishu indicates that whatever abilities people have are simply a reflection of those same qualities that are coming from and are there invested in full in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so that's clear, and it's been mentioned over and over again in scriptures that, anyone's abilities, intelligence, power, influence, all comes from the one particular source, and that is the Supreme Lord, who's the source of everything. And here we see that one who has power has to know how to use it. And power should not be misused to do harm to others. It's meant to do benefit to others, to protect others from harmful elements, to become very influential in giving protection and advice and direction to others. So power is a gift, but if it's misused, it becomes the opposite. It becomes a source of a destruction for others and eventually for the one who is using it. But here, Shringi, he's puffed up by his Brahma Tejas. Brahma Tejas means power. And in this particular situation, he thinks that he is correct in his evaluation, and at the same time, he thinks that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if he was here, he would have dealt with it the same way I feel like it should be dealt with. So not only is he puffed up, he is ignorant also. There's things called arrogance and ignorance. There's people who are ignorant and arrogant. And there's people who are arrogant and not ignorant. They're right, but they're arrogant about their being right. But there's those who have arrogance and it's supported by ignorance. And those are the most dangerous. So here, this boy is ignorant, and at the same time, he is arrogant. And he's going to do something which, as it's explained here, should never have been done, to curse such a great personality as Maharaj Pariksit. So and of course, well, as the verses go on, we'll learn the effects of such things. But this boy wants to show off to his fellow playmates, and he's taking something that is very insignificant and turning into something that is very, what we say, significant in his eyes, and that is this apparent discretion that Parikshit Maharaj did to his father, which was not really serious at all, but he made it much more serious, at least in his own eyes. And so this point is most important, that God gives us intelligence. He gives us certain proclivities and abilities. He gives us facilities also to use the proclivities and abilities in a certain way. All of these things are coming from outside of us. We may mistakenly think that, as Hiranyakashipu thought, well, my power is my power. That's how he responded to Prahlad when Prahlad said, well, you get your power from Vishnu. He said, no, my power is my power. But actually, it wasn't. And the all-powerful showed him that actually you think you're powerful, but I'm coming away to take all of your power away. And not only your power, but you also. He was finished, although he was, by material standards, very powerful. So for a devotee, because when you practice devotional service and you become, what we say, proficient and very much expert at performing devotional service, and you make nice advancement through the different stages of bhakti, you become powerful. Devotees are powerful because they have the source of power behind them, and that is Sri Krishna. But they don't misuse or abuse the power in such a way that it will be done for their own self-aggrandizements or for harming others. They always use their abilities and talents, power, for spreading Krishna consciousness or for helping others who are struggling in their practice of devotional service. So everything has its use, and everything is coming from God. God is, he says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matam sarvar papartanta iti vacha javanti mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything comes from me. The wise who know this engage in my devotional service and worship him with all their heart. So many places throughout scriptures, both by the Lord and by the Lord's great devotees, they illustrate that the supreme source of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, a devotee is always humble. Today in class, we were listening to one question where one person says, well, you know, when I practice devotional service, I make some advancement. When I make some advancement, I become proud of my advancement. And as soon as, after a while, after becoming proud, then I lose it. And he said, this happens continuously. I'll make some advancement, I become proud of it, and then I lose it. So, of course, there was many discussions around this, but one of the points that wasn't brought up that I was thinking of during that discussion was that actually we should be grateful that what we are experiencing is simply due to the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, we can become proud that the mercy of the Lord is so readily available. But we should never think that because I have received that mercy, it is my mercy or it's my ability or whatever. That just shows some type of ungratefulness. And therefore, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we always give credit to the Lord, to his devotees, and especially the spiritual master, being the source of all of our success in devotional service. The devotee remains humble And therefore, because they're humble and because they're not looking for anything on a personal level, then they receive so much more mercy, and which qualifies for them to make more spiritual advancement. And it continues in that way. So, therefore, in the ordinary parlance and the words of the secular society, it says one should not be proud of borrowed plumes. In other words, we're getting something from the outside. It's coming from some outside, and we're thinking it's mine. It's because of me, and we become proud of that. So, and you see, there was an example in our Krishna conscious movement. There was one lady. She was very highly qualified. She was a teacher, and she had many students that she would instruct. But she was such a teacher that she was intolerant of people who could not easily learn from her. And she would criticize them by saying, it's so easy. Why can't you understand it? It's so easy. Why can't you do it? And this was one of her ways to evaluate her students. And they would feel bad. They would continue to try, even though sometimes they could never come up to the standard she wanted. But then Krishna taught her a lesson. What he did is after some time she became very sick and she couldn't do anything because of her illness. She was not able to preach anymore, talk, mentor her students. She was not able to even carry on her personal needs. She needed help. And then Krishna showed her, oh, you're so intolerant of everybody's, what we say, shortcomings. But now here, look at yourself. You're full of shortcomings. So yeah, so if we become proud of something, we lose it eventually. And we become proud of something, it causes us to act in the wrong way, which in the result was that we actually um, are no longer able to receive that mercy anymore. So a devotee is always humble. They see that God is great and the spiritual master is a representative of God, and therefore he has his own greatness also. And I'm simply receiving their mercy, and by that reception, I'm executing my devotional service. And if I'm getting some praise, some position because of that, I thank the Lord, and at the same time, I use that for the benefit of others, and never to become proud. As they say, pride goeth before the fall. It's a Christian saying. Pride goeth before the fall. So if one continually becomes proud, then they will find themselves always falling down from the proposed position of superiority. Like that. So here it's interesting. And he thinks mistakenly that he is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's self-appointed. No one told him that he's the representative of God, nor does he qualify himself in that way. But he's acting like, well, Krishna would have did something to this Maharaj Pariksit. He's not here anymore, so I'll be the one who acts on his behalf. So he's imagining something, and he's taking the situation and changing it to make it look much worse than it actually is. So this is an interesting pastime. There's a lot of messages here that we can learn from. And one of the message in this is devotees practice always giving credit to the spiritual master and to the association of devotees and to the mercy of the Lord. They never take credit for themselves. Okay, so here, these are a few points that we can think about, and there's a lot of discussion that can ensue based on this point of false prestige, arrogance, and so many other points that are found in this particular pastime. Okay, I'll stop there.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So it's time again for the Q&A. So I would highly encourage and request to turn on your cameras if you can, and if you're in a position to do so, to make the session more interactive and personal. Also, you can ask your questions by raising your hands, or you can type it in the chat window if you're not able to relay, and I can read the questions on your behalf. Thank you very much. So Maharaj, whilst the devotees contemplate, I just wanted to share one. When I was hearing a lecture from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu in the Bhakti Vaibhav sessions, one thing which really struck me was that, and I've experienced this myself, is when certain devotional task needs to be done, you are put in a position of empowerment and you are able to execute those duties quite nicely. And sometimes you wonder how come you ended up with doing such a wonderful duty, wonderful service. And at the same time, when the requirement is over, meaning when the Krishna thinks that your task is finished, either because you were part of only fulfilling that certain duration of the service, or in my case, maybe I was feeling too proud that I was in that service, the empowerment goes. And this is the point that you also mentioned, which is empowerment comes for a service from Krishna, and also it's taken away by Krishna. And the example was also from Arjuna when he was not able to defend the queens from the tribesmen when he was trying after Krishna's departure. So this was very wonderful point, which I realized from that lecture and also re-emphasized by you in this class today.
Yeah, in that case, it wasn't pride, it was just the Krishna element. When Krishna is
Yes.
there, everything is wonderful. If he withdraws his power for whatever reason, the whole situation is changed. That's why, devotees should be very careful. Even if they have abilities and can do things, they should always understand that it's by way of the mercy that I'm able to perform these activities. And that they always give credit, not to themselves, but to the situation that came. That's why we always say all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to my spiritual master. It's not just a statement that we make just to sound nice. It actually means, yeah, there's so many glories that come by way of my execution of devotional service, but I pass them on. I give them to my spiritual master. I give them to Krishna. I give credit to the association of devotees. Yeah, we have to know that. And when we don't, and then we actually get the experience that after some time, even the littlest things become hard to do because the empowerment or has been taken away or one has become proud. And pride also includes an element of ignorance in it because pride means mudda or madness, illusion. And therefore, in this illusionary state of consciousness, thinking one is great or better than others, then people will make mistakes and say things or do things that will be harmful to them and others. So one has to be very conscious that everything is the mercy of the Lord. mercy of the spiritual master.
Thank you, Maharaj. Dear devotees, any questions, comments, realizations, please feel free to share or ask a question about this wonderful topic. Sridevi Mataji raised your hands. Please go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you, Dinanath. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Maharaj, in this purport, we see that even Kali could not do anything until he found an opening through this little Brahmin boy. And this also by the grace of the Lord, because nothing can happen without Krishna's allowing it to happen. So, did Krishna allow this to happen because this is Kali's age, and so he allowed these things to happen?
You could say that. We can also say that on the higher level, this was a way to detach Maharaj Pariksit from all of his duties and activities in the material world and bring him back to Godhead. That's the ultimate principle there. So we're dealing with principles on different levels of understanding. On the highest level, it was the Lord's arrangement. On the highest level, everything is either given by the Lord directly or sanctioned by the Lord by his permissive nature. Either way, there's nothing outside of these two aspects of the Lord. He either allows things to happen because he's all knowing, he knows everything, or he wants things to happen in a certain way, and therefore he uses his energies to facilitate. Yeah. In this case, it was done to detach Maharaj from all of his worldly duties and bring him back to Godhead.
So, may I ask a little follow up question regarding that, Gurudev?
Yeah.
My question is, his father, Shamik Rishi, was very, very powerful, and he could have immediately made, reverse that or change that. But he chose not to do, well, I think he did apologize to the king by going to the king, but he didn't do anything to change what his son had done. So how can we understand that?
What do you mean? The curse was given, and the boy had the power to curse. So when a curse is given, curse can be modified, it cannot be withdrawn. He found out later what happened. He didn't know exactly until everything became revealed later. Then he also he mildly chastised his son for acting wrongly. That'll come up. But he wasn't aware that this happened.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Questions?
Maharaj, I have a question. I'm just reading this statement in the purpose. An upstart with a little power wants to become the incarnation of the Lord. And we see that many, especially in India, where every week a god is manufactured out of mental concoction of power, or they make guru god. But it's quite profound. Where once we little power, we think we have the power of Krishna, and try.
Mystic power is available for those who learn the art. If you learn the art and perform the austerity, you can develop mystic power. But that doesn't mean you're the supreme mystic. You have power, but you don't. It doesn't mean you are the source of that power. Krishna is called Yogeshwara, the master of all mystics. If anybody else thinks they're Yogeshwara, they're an illusion because there's only one Yogeshwara, Krishna. You see that everywhere. Yogis, tapasis. If you want power, perform austerities. You'll get power. Austerity brings power. Material austerity brings material power. Spiritual austerity elevates one to the platform of devotional service. Austerity is the source of power.
So then, Maharaj, whilst just continuing in that line, even ourselves, or at least myself, because I'm conditioned, um, a little bit that I can do, which is following on from my first question, I start to think that I'm the doer, which means that I believe that I have control over things. So how do I get out of that mentality? Because it's constantly there when great achievement comes or something you've done, something good, it's like, yeah, I've done it. It's my knowledge, my relationships, my contacts. And it's kind of, you're getting into the trap of always thinking it's because of you, you've done it.
Yeah, it's an illusion. Bhagavad Gita explains that there's 5 factors of action, and the living entity is just 1/5 of that action. There's 4 other factors. Super soul is the main factor in all actions. So, with 4 other factors being ingredients in all activities, how can you claim that you are actually, the total source of all of everything that happens? You're not. You may write a book, but if nobody reads it, what's the use of your book?
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Shilpesh Prabhu, you have your raised hand. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Maharaj. Haribol. Maharaj, in ISKCON, obviously, through the history of ISKCON, there have been misuses of power by devotees. Do you think these devotees should have been called out earlier about their misuse of power?
Now, we were just talking about that today. Govinda Dasi, one of the original Prabhupada disciples, is here, and she just gave a 2-hour talk, and she was saying in the old days how there was so much competition in the early days with Prabhupada's disciples. And, Prabhupada had Americans, and Americans have big egos because they're from America. They have everything. They've grown up in a nice country. They're never experiencing war. They're never experiencing famine. They're never experiencing shortages. Everything's handed to them. And so they get proud. And Prabhupada also saw that, and he had to deal with that because a lot of times there would be competition amongst the leaders, and that competition would cause problems. They even sometimes wouldn't listen to Prabhupada, but go on and do whatever they wanted to do. And Prabhupada was there. Ultimately, he fixed that each time. But that was a constant feature of there, yeah. So that's there. And I'm not saying it's there just with Americans, but American was at least in our society, that's where Prabhupada started everything. And he said, you know, your country of America is great, so do something to represent greatness. In other words, spread Krishna consciousness in a big way. And they did it. Look how fast Krishna consciousness went around the world. It was Prabhupada's American disciples that did it. Because they liked doing important, they liked doing important things.
Sorry, Marge, I wanted to ask, what about today's ISKCON and going forward in the future once all of us sort of Prabhupada disciples have left this world? Well, what would be your recommendations that we don't end up in problems again?
Yeah, but so many other great souls are coming into the movement. I was just listening to Govinda Das. She was saying practically all the children that are born in our movement, they're coming from heavenly planets, and that's a fact. Many of them are. These children that are born into the movement from devotee parents, they're not ordinary children. And Prabhupada also said that the demigods are lining up. He said that to take birth in this Krishna conscious movement because they know this is the fastest way to go back home, back to Godhead. And so many of the devotees that are born in the movement are really qualified people. So we have to really take care of these children because many of them are really special souls that are coming to assist in bringing Krishna consciousness around the world. And there's many other qualified people that are also joining who are not born in the movement, who can do wonderful service, who have great intelligence. So that's happening. If you stay in London and you just look at your computer all the time, you're not going to get much information. When you travel, you'll see. This movement is powerful. And there's many great souls in this movement. If I can give you an example, there's one devotee in America. He distributed 46 sets of Bhagavatam in one day. 46 Bhagavatam sets in one day, which is over 5,000 books. And so, I mean, the book scores are like, you know, phenomenal around the world. Many great things are happening. And many devotees are just, you know, our movement is spreading quite fast in many areas. In other areas, it's slow. So, yeah. But Prabhupada's devotees set the standard by their austerity and working under the guise of Prabhupada to set the foundation for how Krishna consciousness would blossom through their austerities. Because nowadays people have everything materially. In the old days, when I joined, we didn't have everything materially. We had hardly anything. Sometimes we only had one dhoti. Sometimes we had no hot water. Sometimes we had no place to sleep. Even Prabhupada had to go through a lot of austerity. I was just listening to Govinda Dasi describing how Prabhupada got into the United States. It wasn't so easy. The immigration laws were not completely in effect at that time. And Prabhupada had to undergo so many things. He had to travel alone in order for him to do that. Prabhupada's austerities could never even come, we could never come close to what the difficulties he assumed to spread this movement. And so now we're getting a class of people who are born into a movement who don't have to go through all of these austerities, but they're highly qualified, they're intelligent, they come from good families, they have abilities like that. And so the danger is that they can become proud, and that pride could cause things to go in the reverse direction. So this is a very important point. When I joined, we couldn't become proud of anything because we didn't have anything. We had our 1 or 2 dhotis and a bunch of mud that we had to work through in order to do our service. That was on the New Vrindavan farm, but even in the city temples, it was struggle. You know, there was no money. We had no congregation to support our society. All the money was coming in from devotees who would join. They would bring some money in. That was about it. We came on a few economic adventures to make some money to establish things, but many devotees were working and supporting the temples at the same time in order for the temples to go on. They were regular devotees, but they had jobs in order to get money to keep the temples going. Now it's different. We got nice buildings, we have cars, we have computers, we have so many things. Sri Devi sitting there in Mayapur, surrounded by a nice building. Mayapur and them, I couldn't even get anything to eat. I remember when we used to go to Mayapur. I couldn't find anything to eat. It was difficult. Now you can't get away from the restaurants and some food services that are there. You have a big problem choosing which pizza place you want to go to, or where you want to get prasadam. You know, it's just like unlimited. So yeah, the old days were like, you know, it was the foundation. So the Prabhupada disciples kind of set that pattern, and they did it by their hard work and austerities and accepting so many difficulties in order to spread the movement. But now we have so many qualified people who are being born into the movement, who are intelligent, who can come and do wonderful things to spread this movement and to make nice advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we have to be careful not to allow this pride to come in. Because, you know, Krishna can take everything away if he wants. And then we had that era also. At one time in America, everything started to collapse because all of the success in our movement at one point was being used in the wrong way. And then Krishna started to pull things back. And then that's a whole history. That happened about 5 or 6 years after Srila Prabhupada left in the beginning of the 80s and then into the 90s. Study this movement. It's interesting, the history. I mean, you can study it from different angles of vision and different geographical locations, but to really, and this movement is being orchestrated by Lord Chaitanya himself directly. So he's sending all of these great souls to come into the movement now and to participate in Krishna consciousness. He's empowering devotees to do wonderful things. But we should never think all of these things are also by our efforts. They're by the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya's desire to spread Krishna consciousness. He's making the difference.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful answer. Thank you. So helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have Olga from, is that Italy? You're in Italy?
Yes, Maharaj, I'm in Milan, in Italy.
Milano, okay.
Milano. Thank you a lot for the class, and thank you for your example with this teacher. So I realize that I am proud Yeah, so I am proud and ignorant and arrogant, so the full mix. And I wanted to ask, so it is, let's say, easier to manage it when you have your head cool, right? So when you rationalize and you understand I have this problem, etc. But when, for example, you are in anger, so when you are burning, of this arrogance and pride in the middle of situation, so how maybe you could advise how to bring yourself fast, how to stop yourself from demonstrate your ignorance and arrogance. So how to catch yourself in this moment?
When you recognize it, it's one thing. When you don't recognize it, it's harder to deal with it. So recognize it first. Learn what are the good qualities, and therefore try to replace those negative qualities with Krishna conscious qualities. It's not so much getting rid of the bad qualities, it's bringing in the good qualities. If we get rid of the bad qualities, what does that mean? We're halfway there, we're not there. So bring in the good qualities, then the bad qualities will automatically be pushed out. So therefore, try to cultivate these qualities that are conducive to Krishna consciousness and pridelessness, humility, tolerance, freedom from anger, freedom from desire for personal gain. These are all qualities that we can cultivate in the relationship to our devotional service. But we can't do it unless we're engaged in devotional service. If we're not engaged in devotional service, we're on the mental platform. We're on the mental platform, we can accept and reject things based on whether we like it or don't like it. But that doesn't solve the problem, because the problem still exists either in the subtle form or in a more graphic experience than when we try to use our minds to push out all of these things. We can't do it because these things are part of the conditioned nature, and therefore we have to replace that conditioned nature with our constitutional nature, our spiritual nature. So gradually, yeah. Anger, if you become angry, the scriptures say practice forgiveness. You're angry at someone, or you're angry at some situation, learn how to forgive, learn how to tolerate the situation and move on. If you're ignorant, read the scriptures and you'll get knowledge. Hear from the acharyas, they'll give you understanding. So there's everything negative is a shadow reflection of the reality. Everything positive is the reality. Bad qualities are simply what is it? The absence of good qualities, that's all. Bad qualities is the absence of good qualities. And just like the sun or darkness is the absence of light. Evil is the absence of good. So practice those qualities that are contrary to those different negative qualities. And then you'll bring in the light of Krishna consciousness. But you also have to engage in devotional service. You have to chant the holy names of the Lord. You have to associate with devotees. These are required. Otherwise, just to speculate and to think, oh, I want to be a good person, so I'll put all of the good qualities in my mind and I'll try to execute them. It won't last, because if you're still engaged in any kind of material activities, that'll just build those bad qualities back up again. Only when you engage in devotional service can you develop good qualities that don't leave you. they will become part of you. They become your character. They become your way of thinking, your way of acting. So learn the good qualities and practice them in relationship to doing service. Because
Thank you.
without doing service, they'll simply be just here today, gone tomorrow.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, you have your hands raised. If you have a
Does that
question.
help? Olga, does that help you?
Yes, yes. It gives me direction.
Yeah.
I see the direction. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're feeling angry, practice forgiveness. That's all. If you're feeling proud, practice humility.
I will be continuing. Thanks.
Benissimo.
Thank you. Sridevi Mataji, you can go ahead. Maharaj, is it okay to take one last question? It's hour past. Just wanted to check with you if you're okay for time.
Sridevi.
Guru Maharaj, I was just thinking about what you said just a little bit earlier about, Prabhupada saying, you are Americans. Why don't you do something big for Krishna? And I was also thinking about the next generation. We are the generation who's got all this wonderful prasadam, as you said, and deity worship and temples and books, and we have so much. So when the next generation, I sometimes think if my daughter had to ask me, what are you doing for spreading Krishna consciousness? What are you doing for Krishna's movement? What my answer will be if I just sit and take nice prasadam and enjoy everything, then we will also not be able to answer the next generation when they ask some tough questions.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. That's correct. Understanding comes by realization. Realization comes by application. Application comes by understanding. Understanding comes by proper hearing. So if you're hearing, understanding, applying, realizing, and getting the benefit, which is character development, spiritual development. It's a process. But if therefore, devotee is grateful, thinking, I've been given so much, what can I do to, show my gratefulness? Let me serve as much as I can. Okay.
Okay.
You're not serving Krishna, you're serving Maya. There's no in between.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Simply taking care of the body is not Krishna consciousness. It's something that's needed, but it's not Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means to take on some meaningful service that help develop and spread this Krishna conscious movement. Which means that, the temples are there as ways to give devotees opportunities for service. We don't go to the temple, then Now we have to figure out how we're going to do some service. Okay.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Maharaj, with your permission, we can conclude today's class.
Okay, we can stop here.